Hello, and welcome to another episode of Broadcast Movie and TV Talk. Well, it seems that Ghostbusters Afterlife is causing controversy just by existing, and it is the same stuff that happened when the trailer for this movie first came onto the scene. And the title of the article we have here I found on Paste Magazine's website says it all. The title of this article is "We Should Have Cherished the 2016 Ghostbusters when we had." Yeah, you can see where this is going, and I'm going to cherry pick my favorite bits from the article, and when I make this, I will link it in the video description so you can read for yourself. This is probably going to be a very long video, but I want this to be out there. I am also going to be using a text-to-speech voice for the bits from the article. Without further delay, let's get into this.
The second will be that although that is very much true, there will soon be a short-term tonic. That tonic arrives on July 15th, and it's the new Ghostbusters movie. On that day and any day after, buy your tickets, sit down, and cherish every second. Cherish the expertly assembled ensemble of hilarious people making every sequence a riot. Cherish the bonkers new take on spirits, specters, and ghouls that need busting. Cherish the titan that is Kate McKinnon stealing every scene and getting her own slow-mo action sequence. And cherish the fact that this is a reboot, remake, whatever that means, to respect what came before, but remains 100% confident in its new vision. Cherish every fleeting moment, because while it may not be perfect or the new take on the series you were expecting, I was telling the truth when I said what's coming would be much, much worse.
This is like the first part of the article, and I just can't help but laugh my ass off at this. I mean, it really sets the tone for what this article is going to be about.
The necessity for Terminator-style time travel stems from the fact that when the movie from director Paul Feig starring Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, Leslie Jones, and McKinnon dropped over 5 years ago, we didn't give ourselves a chance to bask in its comedic brilliance.
I am sorry, but did this guy say comedic brilliance? Yes, you had 4 comedians, which should have helped the 2016 movie, but there was actually no direction given to the actors. No, wait, that's not true. They were given the direction, and the only direction they were given was to ad-lib and just riff off of each other. Oh, yeah, ad-libbing, remember that? That's what led to the most shitty dialogue in the 2016 Ghostbusters movie, and why it was terrible, because of the lack of actual direction from the director.
By controversy, I mean big babies taking to social media. Said babies made the first trailer the most disliked film trailer in YouTube history, and in turn made every conversation about the movie have to share space with sexism aimed at the cast, racism aimed at Jones, and general rage that this reboot simply didn't look like the new movie they wanted.
Now, there's something I agree with here, and that's the fact that all the sexism and racism the cast got is terrible, and people really shouldn't do that. Assuming that before Ghostbusters 2016 released, the movie was going to flop because women is just wrong. But on the flip side, the writer of this article is basically doing this to people who like the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie more than Ghostbusters 2016 by calling them big babies or man babies. So our writer here isn't really setting the kind of example that they should be and what people, what they want people to be thinking.
In essence, any praise or valid criticism was drowned out by children who opened a box on Christmas and saw that the toy they got wasn't the exact one they wanted, and proceeded to pout "I love Veruca Salt," and a big chunk of this was all before the movie even came out.
And this is exactly what I was saying. The writer is calling Ghostbusters fans a bunch of children and comparing the reveal of Ghostbusters 2016 to opening a box on Christmas and seeing something that they got that they didn't want. Now, they also say that most of this happened before the movie released, and to be honest, mostly it was the sexism and racism stuff that dominated before the movie released. After the movie released is when people set that aside and said that Ghostbusters 2016 is actually an awful movie, not funny movie, and here is the proof of that in the movie.
Had we as a society had the opportunity to have a normal discourse about the movie, and have the foresight to see what was coming after the success of Star Wars: The Force Awakens the previous December, people maybe would have better embraced how Feige, co-writer Katie Dippold and the cast delivered the best possible version of a reboot of a beloved franchise.
Okay, why the fuck are you bringing The Force Awakens into an article about Ghostbusters? Why the fuck are you trying to compare Ghostbusters 2016 to The Force Awakens? Did you actually watch Ghostbusters 2016? It's not the best possible reboot of the franchise, and I am not even a Ghostbusters fan. I just like watching them from time to time. But seriously, there is no comparison between Ghostbusters 2016 and The Force Awakens.
Everyone involved embraced the lunacy with a modern sense of humor, upped the ante on the supernatural bedlam, and threw out just enough references to function while standing firm that this was its very own beast.
Yeah, I really don't think that 2016's cast and director really understood what makes the original Ghostbusters movie so great. If they did, they would have gave the actors more direction.
Every character, joke, and ghostly figure worked to solidify that this vision was going to be working on its own terms.
I really don't feel like our writer actually watched the movie at all, much less recently, before writing this article. He constantly keeps referring to Ghostbusters 2016 as a reboot, but also as a standalone Ghostbusters movie, and yeah, some movies can do that and are good at it, but that isn't Ghostbusters 2016.
And yet, despite making a wildly fun movie that lived up to the spirit of the original and opened a portal to a world of new opportunities, the damage was perhaps done before opening weekend.
Alright, I'm just gonna say it because it's the entire tone of this article. This entire article comes off as writer really likes Ghostbusters 2016 and is upset with that other people don't like it, and they're also upset that Ghostbusters Afterlife is more successful than Ghostbusters 2016 is, and so they wrote this whole article and somehow it got published.
The antithesis of what preceded it, Afterlife, is 2 hours of a studio issuing a response to a very small contingent of angry fanboys that reads, "We're sorry we didn't make the movie you wanted to see, so here's some free Easter eggs, and we hope you remain a loyal customer."
Okay, writer person, listen up. Movie studios like Sony, they like money. Movies that do well bring in lots of money. And that shows studios like Sony when a certain movie works and when it doesn't work. Ghostbusters 2016 didn't make the numbers that Sony wanted it to, and so there was no chance in hell that any kind of sequel or anything more was going to happen with the characters from that movie. Studios like Sony go by what brings in the money. It doesn't matter what angry fanboys say. Also, writer person, stop referring to people that don't like Ghostbusters 2016 by names like angry fanboys.
As if gulping down a witch's brew of 80s nostalgia that combines the explosive hit Things, the more explosive box office of The Force Awakens, and the deafening screams of a subset of Ghostbusters fanboys who possessed rage towards the 2016 movie before it hit theaters. Afterlife functions as a feckless, weak-willed studio hodgepodge.
Again, why are you bringing up a movie like The Force Awakens? Before this, writer mentions the younger cast and the whole passing of the torch to a younger generation, and says that as a negative of Afterlife. I mean, that's probably going to happen to a lot of our MCU heroes too. They'll probably get someone younger to be the next Iron Man. It's not an uncommon thing. Anyways, what writer is saying is that Afterlife has literal digging up the past references to things from past Ghostbusters movie, but the 2016 one doesn't do that, and is saying that because of the fanboys who possess rage towards the 2016 movie, it's their fault. I mean, do you want actual Ghostbusters in your Ghostbusters movie? Ghostbusters is the Ecto-1, the proton packs, the ghost traps, etc. Plus for Sony, this is the shot that gets butts in seats and money in the pockets of Sony. It honestly has nothing to do with those angry fanboys you keep bringing up.
It's like Sony was so afraid of the rage of online commenters and fanboys that they basically made the first piece of safely adaptable fan fiction that came across their desk.
No! Sony isn't afraid of online commenters and quote-unquote fanboys. Sony could give less of a damn about them, because if there's one lesson I know in the media world, it's that any kind of press is good press. Sure, there was a lot of controversy surrounding Ghostbusters 2016, but it got people talking about it, searching it up and watching videos on it and so on. And so, Sony liked that still.
At the very worst, it's the continuation of a precedent within a studio system to put not even fans, but simply the angriest, most vocal fans first, no matter the cost to creative filmmaking.
Again, Sony did what they thought is going to make them the most money, and if you look at Box Office Mojo, Ghostbusters Afterlife is doing just that, with a worldwide box office of 89 million at the time of this video. That's pretty damn good with all the COVID crap going on.
If the 2016 Ghostbusters lived to give its characters their own voice and the world its own tone, so as to carve out its own name in a popular series, Afterlife is all about taking every absurd element of the original and treating them like excerpts from a sort of Dead Sea Scroll, worshipping with utter seriousness a movie in which Dan Aykroyd gets blown by a ghost, as if this fun, low-stakes comedy is the enshrined history of the holy saints Spangler, Venkman, Stantz, and Zeddemore.
Yeah, that's what makes the money. Plus, to go with a point that the writer brings up, it's also what the Ghostbusters fan wants. Like, that doesn't mean that Sony is doing this explicitly because it's what the fans want. They just know that to get the most money, they need to do what will appeal to the most amount of people, regardless of if they are fans of Ghostbusters or not. Plus, a movie like Afterlife, having the idea of passing the torch to a younger generation, will bring in people who are younger and maybe going to see their first Ghostbusters movie, and so they make new fans. Plus, since Afterlife has a bit of classic Ghostbusters characters as well as new ones, that may make these new fans want to go back and watch the originals and possibly the 2016 movie. So Afterlife has the potential to create new fans with this movie and fans of older movies.
Every beat that isn't rudimentary childhood antics is dedicated not to telling its own story, but rehashing what came before as a way of appeasing a fan base that needs to be coddled with the familiar.
Oh boy, this is just so wrong and so terrible. Sure, Afterlife does have more in common with the original movie, but it's not to say that the 2016 Ghostbusters movie doesn't have related things. I mean, writer said near the beginning of the article that Ghostbusters 2016 has references to the original, plus it has the familiar Ghostbusters things like the Ecto-1 and the Proton Packs. And again, with all the calling Ghostbusters fans children just because they didn't like the movie that our writer likes is just getting so fucking old.
I'm not here to say that Ghostbusters Afterlife is in itself a completely imperfect movie, and the 2016 Ghostbusters is a perfect one, but between the two, only the latter seems to have understood what the real spirit of Ghostbusters is, and in turn, added to it.
Really? Because you sure seem to be taking a huge fucking dump on Afterlife, and you really seem to be putting Ghostbusters 2016 on a very high pedestal. But I'm sorry to say that the 2016 movie doesn't understand the quote-unquote real spirit of Ghostbusters, and it didn't add a single fucking thing to the franchise unless it's how to make an awful Ghostbusters movie.
With the 2016 film, we got exactly what we needed to jumpstart the series, a hysterical time at the theater that could have been a start of something wild and increasingly fun, all while respecting what came before and expanding its own horizons for everyone to grow with.
Okay, calling this movie hysterical is going way too far. Ghostbusters 2016 is painfully unfunny when it shouldn't have. As I said earlier in this thing, that the biggest issue with Ghostbusters 2016 is you have 4 comedians, good comedians. I think they've all been on SNL, and probably still are. I don't know, I don't watch Saturday Night Live. But you didn't give them any kind of direction beyond ad-libbing. Now, this can work in some cases, but it clearly was a detriment to Ghostbusters 2016.
What creativity was bubbling there is now gone in place of shameless fan service catered by yet another studio afraid to take a chance on something different with their precious IP, and all for supposed fans who couldn't be less deserving.
Oh dear writer, how wrong you are. They did what they did because it'll appeal to the most people, and no, it's not fan service. And no, Sony isn't afraid of doing something different with the Ghostbusters IP. They just want things that they can be certain will make them all money. If you went to Sony with a script for a sequel to Ghostbusters 2016, I guarantee you that any Sony executive would turn you down because of how much said movie flopped. They wouldn't see it as a worthwhile investment, but sure, you believe that it's because of the quote-unquote man-babies, man-children, and angry fanboys. It's their fault. Yeah, well, I guess this went on a little longer than I thought it was going to, and I had a few more talking points to get to, but you can see the overall main point about this article. Writer really likes Ghostbusters 2016 and doesn't like that Afterlife is doing a lot better, and so writer writes and manages to get published an entire article shitting on Afterlife. I got nothing else here. I've said everything I need to say. So, that's all I have to say. If you want to add to the conversation, leave a comment below. As always, thanks for listening, and goodbye.